Hey everyone. I'll bet, like me, you might be getting to a place where there's nowhere to get privacy in your house. So that is why I am filming from my bed today. My daughter is in my office space doing her college class, and my husband's working downstairs, and my dog is barking in the living room. So today's mini lesson, thankfully, is relatively short. A lot of it is supported by the photographs that you're going to find in the links below. I'm going to begin by referring you back to one of the pictures in my last post. It was a photo where I showed you how to cluster and then categorize your information. What you're going to see there is that I've taken a lot of facts that I already wrote word for word, and I've clustered them together in order to show you where common ideas live. The reason why we do this is so that we can begin to create a structure for our piece. But the purpose of today's lesson, and what I want you to be able to say by the end of this, is that you're able to actually paraphrase the evidence that you've gathered on those sticky notes or index cards, that you're actually able to write it in your own words, to read it, comprehend it, and say it back in a way that doesn't mimic what the author wrote, but that reframes the evidence in a way that is your own and that relies on your own words. One of the ways that I like to do this is by using a process that I kind of came up with a few years ago called note, sketch, paraphrase. And it works a little bit like this. This is an example of a bit of evidence that I gathered on a note card. And I've copied that evidence down word for word out of a resource that I used. And I even made note of who the author was. This is a bit of evidence that was gathered as I was reading a researcher by the name of Steele's work in 2011. And I was trying to figure out, how do I talk to writers in a way that moves them forward? How do we give writers good feedback? And what Steele suggested is that these 3 steps really matter. So I wrote them down word for word, and I'll take a picture of this and post it in the links as well. Name the standard of excellence, point to it, offer strategies to move students closer to that particular place. But I don't want to say it exactly like this. I don't want to copy this researcher's work. I want to be able to use it to influence my own ideas and then reference that person, of course. One of the ways that I can do that is by taking this note, which I copied word for word, bending the edge over, and creating a little sketch note. And my sketch note, which I'll also take a picture of, uses no words at all. Instead, I've made a speech bubble, which represents how this particular bit of evidence recommended that I name the standard of excellence. I point to it either in an author's work, another author's work, or maybe even in the student's work, and then I give them a step-by-step process. If I can sketch note exactly what that researcher shared and then flip the card over and use my sketch note, I can usually use the images to paraphrase and come up with my own words. And that's exactly what I did. I looked at the speech bubble. I looked at the little sketch note of pointing it out. I looked at the little 3-step process, and I'm going to use my own words this time. If I'm going to help writers get better at what they do, I need to describe what good really looks like. I need to define that. Then I need to share an example or show the writer where he or she is already doing that in their own work. And then I need to offer a step-by-step approach that helps the writer do it. Essentially, I've used my evidence to influence my thinking, but I've come up with my own words. The next step is that I need to figure out how I'm going to reference that researcher, and that will be tomorrow's mini lesson. Your challenge today is to take just one cluster, not the entire board of notes that you collected, but just one cluster. And what I'd like you to do is paraphrase the evidence inside of that cluster. You're finished with today's lesson when you've accomplished that for just one cluster of information. Make sure that if you have questions, you reach out to your teacher. He or she will touch base with me if they're not able to help you themselves. Have a good night, everyone.